to 2016. This is my first video for the year. And if you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping in. I hope you find something of interest here while I do little craft projects and take you through some of my ups and downs of different new products and some of the projects that I like to share with all of you. And if you are a subscriber or you're just popping in, thank you again. I appreciate all your support. Today, I decided I'm going to do, as you can tell by the title, some hot foiling on this new machine. I'm going to be doing a video series on all the things that this machine does, the hot foil, emboss, die cut, and letterpress. It also does do stamping, and I want to experiment with that a little bit. So this is going to be the hot foil video, and I wanted to just let you know a couple of things that I've already found out, share a little bit of a tip with you. For anybody that isn't familiar with this machine or hasn't seen my introduction, my little first impressions video, this plate right here will get warm. So this unit does have a cord and you do plug it in. Well, before I turn it on and start getting it warm, and it takes, well, they say it takes 10 to 12 minutes to warm up. I personally like to leave it on 15 or 20 minutes. And this is one of the letterpress plates that I purchased. And it's made for letterpressing but also hot foiling. And it's pretty thick, so it really embeds deep into, if you're letterpressing the cotton letterpress paper, or if you're using regular cardstock, it will hot foil this image or this pattern on there too. So what I do is I set this on, I turn the machine on, and I let it warm up for a good 15 to 20 minutes before I even try to hot foil. If it's not warm, it's not going to work. But what I wanted to share with you before I turn it on, so obviously this is cold, is I've been reading about people struggling with this machine. And I'm not going to tell you that I haven't struggled. I'll share that at the end of the video. But I do want to let you know that one of the things I found is to play around with your dial on what you're trying to accomplish while it's cold. Just my impression, but why be worried about the heat on top of everything else when you can just put your hand wherever you need to, adjust your dial, and play around with it. So if you're buying this machine, or if you already own it, and you want to try to work on these settings, I would suggest you do it while it's cool. Now, for just information purposes, this base does not move. This is what is going to move over your die cuts or any plates or any images that you have here. And out of frame, because I had to come in tight, there is a handle over here. And so you crank the handle and this whole piece right here is going to run across. This dial, you dial up and down. This is the only adjustment that you really worry about. It's rare that you have to adjust anything here. Other than the basic things that they tell you, whether you're pulling this plate out, putting another one on, which you'll see in just a moment. This dial is making the rollers go up and down. So 12 is the rollers at the highest, and 0 is right down to the surface. So to adjust your height, you pick this button up, and mine is still a little tight due to manufacturing. I think it takes a while to break this machine in, and you dial this to whatever number you want. With playing around with this, I kind of made a little label up here, and this is just for the hot foil settings. I have two different types of cardstock. I'm going to tell you right now that I find the 65-pound hot foil is the best for me because you're not cranking it across this so tight, but the 80-pound does work, and I'm going to show you both in this video. So I just labeled it's for 65-pound for my machine a 3 on the setting, on the dial, and 80-pound 4. You will have to play around with your machine, and you will have to see what works best for you. But right now, I'm going to set it on the 3. There's a little arrow here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to pick it up. And I put it on the 3, and then I push it down, and it is set for 3, which means I'm going to do 65-pound for what I played around with and found worked best for me. But to play around with it, put a plate on that you're going to want to use, and like I said, keep it cold. You're going to need an A plate, which comes with the machine, and you set it on top. Now, in between that, you're going to need some cardstock. If you're going to play around with the 65-pound, then put a piece of 65-pound on, put your A plate down, and then start just cranking it back and forth over. See what works. Adjust it. See if it's too tight. This is going to be tight. It's embedding into your paper to get that hot foiling done nicely. It's not going to just lightly go over and barely skim it because you're not going to get enough heat to hot foil. So you do want it tight. That's something that kind of freaked me out, to be honest with you. I thought it was too tight. I'm not used to that. I'm used to just die cutting. And so I'm like, whoa, this is a little interesting. I don't know if I like this. But you get used to it. Along with this, I purchased a solid plate, which I will show you later on. And you also get a silicone mat and this little magnetic pickup tool, which you use once this is hot. You pick up with this, you put it on here, fold this over, and pinch it to get a grip, and set that somewhere safe out of the way. You know, we crafters sometimes tend to touch things that we shouldn't touch when we're in the middle of the process. And I also use the end of this is also silicone, to move things around down here because this will be hot. So just wanted to let you know I use both ends of this. I don't know if other people do, but that's what I tend to do because it works really well for me. So the first thing that I want to do right now is just want to turn it on. So after you've played around with your height adjustments and you have an idea of what you want to do, put down a plate or a shape, whatever you might have, and set it on there. And then there's a button over here on the side. It's a blue button that matches this color, and you just press it in and you'll see this red light comes on. Once the red light turns green, and like I said, 15 to 20 minutes, I really let all of this warm up. It'll be green and we'll be back and we'll do some hot foiling. Okay, as you can see, the light from red has now turned green, which means that it's to temperature, and I can feel the heat. So you wouldn't want to touch this at this time. And so in the instruction manual, I'm on the English version, and on page, starts on page 10. Yes, on page 10 is where they describe how to do the hot foiling. And they also give you a chart that tells you that you need to use the base plate A and then what setting to use. Like I had said, I have it on 3 because I'm going to start out with the 65 pound, but there's no way that this machine is going to do a 2. It is too tight, and I don't want to risk breaking the machine. And it says right on here, the weight of the material that you are using will determine the exact amount of pressure that you need to use. For example, with paper or vellum, you may need to increase the pressure, but with a thicker cardstock, such as, you know, like this 80 pound that I'm referring to, or even 110, you may need to reduce the pressure down by 1 or 2 settings to account for the extra thickness within the sandwich or plates that you're using on here. And I agree with that very much so, because that is the experience that I've been going through as I practiced with this when it was cool. Alright, so I have my plate on. It's nice and warm, and I'm going to start out with a silver foil. And it comes on a roll like this. It has to be for hot laminating, hot press. So this I buy from this company, and I'll put that link in the description below. I also, right now, I just have all my foils in a basket. I'm not quite sure how I want to store these, but it works really well for me right now, storing them like that. So I just cut a piece the width of this plate and height of this plate, and you want to put the pretty side down and let it sit there for a minute. I'm hoping that you can see that the heat is making this move a little bit. You kind of want to let that work. You want to let that heat get on top of that foil and start warming it up. The more this is warm, the better off you're going to be. And then I take a regular, I'm going to do a white piece of 65 pound cardstock, and I'm going to lay that over the top also. And I let that warm up. I don't rush this process. A lot of people have been getting a little nervous about it, and I take my time. Nothing's going to melt on here. You're not going to have like foil melting all over your base plate. It's not going to happen. So at this point, you can put on the A plate, which is what I'm going to do, but I also wanted to take you through one other step. If, for example, you cut this smaller and you have edges of foil sticking out, and they suggest also taking a piece of scrap paper and laying it over the top because you don't want any excess foil sticking onto your A plate. But I've cut mine large enough, so I should be fine. And then I put my A plate on and I let it sit there. Now I want to let it sit till I can feel the heat come through. And it doesn't take that long, but I don't, as I said, I don't rush this. I don't crank this fast. Like when you're die cutting, you use pretty decent speed to cut through. This is a very slow, precise, let the machine do the work for you. I store my dies on magnetic boards that I make, and they work really well because you can just bend them and they come off, but they're so heavy they don't come off. So I make a bunch of these up with the label of what the dies are called, and it works really well for me in storage, and I just store them in a basket. So this is warm to the touch now. So what I start doing, I just put my hand here to stabilize the plate. I was trying to hold this plate down tight because what you're going to see in this is this A plate slides, and that is something that I don't understand why this machine does it. I really don't like it. But I was trying to hold it still and that made it worse. I've adjusted the height trying to get it to not do that, and it doesn't help. So I have just resorted to the fact that resolving this is not possible unless there's a stop here, or that might mess up the whole process. So I just hold it to stabilize it so it's straight this way. Let this start to crank this over, and I have my setting on 3 like I would for the 65 pound that works for me. And as it starts coming onto that A plate, I just let go of it. I just kind of put my hand over here and I resort to the fact that it is going to slide. And I go slowly. And I just start. And as you can tell, see how that's sliding? That's what I don't like about this. So it's going to slide off that hot plate, and I'm not going to get the best foiling on the side. That is what people are complaining about, and I agree with them. I don't understand it, so you really need to cut your paper big enough to where this side that's going to get messed up possibly isn't going to matter. Then I take the end of this and I slide it over. So that's kind of a glitch that I don't care for about this machine so far. But here is the silver on 65 pound, and it does a beautiful job. A little bit of scuffing going on here that I've never had before, so I'm not quite sure why that's happening. And if you can tell, as that foil moved off, you're kind of getting a loss of material over here too. So let's try another one at 80, and I'll show you how that works. This is a pretty pink foil. And actually what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move this plate closer to here. I don't roll this all the way back and then start again. You can roll from each side, so that's nice. And I marked this at 80 so that I know what I have. Move that foil a bit. Set this down. No foil is hanging over, so I don't need that extra protective piece of paper. Let that sit for a minute. I'm starting to feel that it's getting warm. So I'll stabilize this, and I will start having this go over the top. When it seems like it's over there quite well, I just reverse my hand just to have some place to put my other hand. And you can see that the plate is traveling again, but not as much as the 80 pound as the 65. It all varies. I personally believe the more you use this machine, the more you're going to see it seat in more and not move as much, because on their demonstration from the company, their plate doesn't move at all. And I can't figure out why mine does and theirs isn't. So, move this back on. And here's the pink. And I think that did better. It didn't move as much. It wasn't as kind of wonky. So very pretty. And what I like that you can do about this is you can make a bunch of these and then decide if you want to make little 4x4 or 3x4 pocket tag cards for accents in the pocket pages, they would be beautiful. Or as a background, or I'll show you in a few minutes, I even made some letters out of these and it looks really pretty with the actual negative space that I made. Okay, so I'll fast forward and I'm going to try to do one with this beautiful blue, and we'll do it again with blue on a 65-pound white again and see how that works. Okay, I'm going to show you how you take off the plate. So you take your magnet tool and you just clamp it in your hand, as I mentioned before, put it on your silicone mat and pull it off. Set it aside so that it cools. Now I purchased, they didn't originally have this and then they came out with it. I purchased a flat plate. And the reason I purchased it is so I can lay this down and I can let that warm. And you can take any of your negative pieces of foil that you made, for example, this pretty pink one, and you can lay this down on this plate, and you can let it warm up. Now you can take that other plate that I had, the geometric leaf plate, and you can flip it over and use the back side of that too, but this is a little bit larger, so I did purchase it. You set that on there, let that foil start to warm up, let that plate start to warm up. So I'm going to leave that for a few minutes. Alright, this feels nice and warm now, so I'm going to take a 65-pound piece of cardstock, set that on top. No foil is hanging over the edge, but I think I'm just going to play it safe and put that piece of paper down just in case. That way I don't get any foil on this plate. Set this in, do the same process. Now you can tell that I did not let the plate warm up quite long enough. If I had, this would have overlapped and we would have gotten a perfect image all the way across. So that's just something that I wanted to share with you. Let it warm up longer. I probably only left that on 5 minutes and that shouldn't have happened. I should have left it on because it's ice cold when I put it on. I should have let it on probably 15 minutes. So we'll try another one in a few minutes and I'll show you the difference. It did a better job than the first one. But again, to reiterate, why I don't like this sliding is once this slides off onto here, not onto the hot area, you're not going to get it to adhere. So they need to fix this, or I'm doing something wrong. But if I'm doing something wrong, lots of us are doing something wrong. So this is not working exactly as advertised. I still like it, but they need to change something because there shouldn't be sliding, in my opinion anyway. Alright, I'm going to take the base plate off and put it aside to cool. And I'm going to do a sample of the butterflies. I purchased some butterflies and some matching die cuts. So once you hot foil or letterpress, with letterpress you ink on here too. You can do no ink, you can put ink on here and letterpress, or you can hot foil, and of course we're doing hot foil today. So I'll grab a couple of these, and then once I've hot foiled on a video where I'm die cutting, I'll die cut these out and we'll see how they work. I've not done the die cutting on this machine yet. So I'm going to do a butterfly first. I don't know if I should put 2 on and try it. We might as well. Let's just go for it. I've not done these before, so I just want to make sure that my paper is large enough. Yeah, it should be. Alright, I'm going to let that warm up. Leave those on for a few minutes. I'm going to put this pretty blue. I want to do a blue on a blue. So I'm going to turn this over. set this down onto the butterfly. Now seeing this is an 80-pound cardstock, and want to adjust this to 4, so I pick it up and turn it and press it down. I did do that to my other 80-pound. I just forgot to mention it to you guys. Sorry about that. Alright, this is warm enough, so I'm going to put my cardstock on. Here's the image. Looks like it did a beautiful job. We'll see when we pull it off. Very nice. So even though this slid, it had time to heat before it got to this point. So it seems like the shapes you have a better opportunity with until maybe this seats deeper and the sliding stops happening. I'm more impressed with doing shapes than I am the full background. That's working really well. I wanted to share with you how once you've got an image from the negative, you can just take a punch it out, and how pretty is that? That would go on any kind of thing for an embellishment. So even though there's parts that are spotty, it's still beautiful. And you know, if you're into the vintage look, we work really hard to get that look. So I'm not saying it's bad. I just wanted to point it out to you if you're considering purchasing, or if you're struggling with this a little bit like I have been. I'm not giving up. I'm still going to play with this. It's not going back, but it has some glitches that I don't care for. Alright, so what I want to do now is just remove those. And I think I'm going to do one more for you. I have also purchased these, I think these were Celtic. And I wanted to use the flowers in here, and then I'm going to use their matching circles. They match the shapes, the dimensions, and diameter, I guess I should say, of these, and plus you can use this for many other things. So I'll use that in a die cutting video, but I'm just going to pull out the flowers. This had already removed itself when I went through because it was a little bit cutting through, but still very beautiful. So I think we still have to play around a bit more, just to let you know. I feel like I'm not angry that it's not working as beautifully as I wanted it to, but I really wish that they had played around with it, or maybe offered to send it out to some people to see what might work for them and get some input before they released it. Just a little suggestion. I wanted to share with you, because this is hot, and I'm done working with it now, I want to shut it off. So I re-push the button over here that I used to turn it on, and it'll shut off. I'm going to move this over because I wanted to discuss with you just a couple of little things that I don't like about it, and share with you what I do. So first, before I roll this all the way over, I don't like the fact that because the roller goes over here, this is lifting up already. It seems a little silly, seeing I don't even have it down on the lowest number and it's already peeling. That means the plate slid and cut under there and lifted it up. So still tells me the plate should not be sliding. But I'm going to move this over here. And seeing that I may have people coming and going in my craft room, and I might just be a little bit silly and not use my brain some days, or if I'm interrupted or whatever the situation may be, I take the A plate and I kind of cock it over at an angle up here, and I made a little sign, and I just put this on the top so that I don't do something dumb and put my hands on that plate till it cools off. This takes longer to cool off than any of the plates that I pulled off and put on the silicone mat. Those cool off pretty quickly. So I wanted to share that with you. And also these are the letters that I told you. I used some of the negative, and I did the same process with the solid plate. And instead of using a punch, I just put this in my silhouette and cut it out my letters, and it worked really well. So I'm still just playing around a teeny bit with struggling with this plate sliding. So that is my huge complaint about this, the plate sliding. Shouldn't be happening in my opinion. It causes more harm than good. I have, if I'm careful here, I have nothing but scratches here. I have gouges here that shouldn't be. When you're paying $299 for a machine and everything that I got in a package deal with it, I don't think I should have this problem, so I'm kind of not happy about that. But as I said, I know I'm repeating myself, maybe this will seat deeper in, or the rollers will settle in from the manufacturing piece, and this will stop doing that. I'm not giving up on it. I will keep updating you guys, because there's so many things this can do that I do like that part. And the only other thing that I have had a problem with, and you're not going to be able to see it on camera, is the handle swings up. I'll put a still picture in if I can. The handle comes out of position, so you're pulling it out and you're cranking it, and sometimes if you're angled down a little bit, it'll pop back in, and that's kind of an awkward feeling. So I wish there was something where you pull it out, you can put a pin in or something, a button that's going to lock it in. So basically, I have a couple suggestions for the company if they're making a newer version or they need to update this or whatever. I would like a release button here on the roller area so that you don't have to roll it back. If, for example, you want it on the other side, you should be able to push a release button and just slide it over and then set it back in to be ready to roll. That would be really helpful. I think personally, if this A plate's going to continue to slide, then we need this whole thing to be a hot plate. So I don't have this problem. I don't have images being cut off because this is going to slide. If this is going to slide and they can't fix that, then fix this, please. That would be an answer to the problem, I think. Another thing that would be kind of nice, besides the fact that I said I would like to have the handle lock into position, is maybe a little storage area underneath so that I could store the tool and the silicone mat. There's an area that you cannot block because of the passage of all the mechanics underneath, but they could make it a little bit deeper, and there's a little spot that I think they could nestle one in. So basically that's my impression and some samples. We had done the Celtic, we used the negative, and we also used a punch on it. Here are our butterflies. Those came out really well. I'm very impressed with that. Here's the plate with the negative before it was completely heated. So I had a lot of distress here. Still would be pretty in a project though, truly, for any kind of vintage look. Then there's the 80-pound that worked really well. I forgot to tell you, I did switch that knob to 4 to match my little label over here for an 80-pound. And then here's the two at 65, one with the silver and one with the blue. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of a overview of the hot foiling of this machine, and I will be back next time and we'll do some die cutting. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.